Just recently on the channel, I made a video about using the X100VI for video, but something was still nagging at me. I talked about using the X100VI for getting some quick, lazy shots on a day out. I showed you some sample footage, but I was left with the question, what if I ignore everybody's advice, what everybody says this camera is for, and I try to treat it like a true, serious, hybrid photo and video camera? I had a short trip to San Diego coming up where I wasn't super concerned about missing any once-in-a-lifetime shots, so I figured this is the perfect chance. Let's push this camera to its breaking point in video, see what this thing's really capable of, and just leave my XH2S at home. So real quick, in taking video seriously this time, or at least more seriously than last time, the built-in ND filter was not gonna be enough. If you're wondering why I'm holding these two things, I'm gonna get to it. So because I wasn't willing to buy a VND filter specifically for the X100VI, that required two step-up rings, the ND filter, so those two come together, and an adapter ring on the end of it to actually put the whole thing on the camera. So kind of a ridiculous setup. Obviously it makes the lens ridiculously long. There's this kind of like cone-shaped thing happening on the front of the camera, but it works. And you can always just buy an ND filter that fits the adapter ring, and you could lose like a lot of this girth on the front. But in this economy, this camera's not getting its own VND filter, come on. I chose to shoot this video in F-Log versus F-Log 2 because F-Log has a lower base ISO, and it also is a little bit easier to work with if you're using lower bit rates. I find that F-Log 2 needs a lot more information to be pleasant to grade, and so I kept things a little simpler in the post workflow by planning ahead using F-Log at 200 megabits per second, which is also the highest bit rate that the X100VI is capable of. I was not shooting at 6K, but instead I was shooting at 4K downsampled from 6K, which is the same setting that I use on my XH2S, just for file sizes and genuinely uploading the stuff to YouTube. You'll never tell the difference, I promise. And then of course, 422 10-bit color. Wild that a point and shoot camera has some of these specs. And I'm now going to proceed to do something that I don't do in a lot of videos about Fujifilm gear, which is to sing Fujifilm's praises. But with that said, I want to get the negatives out of the way so that we can focus on the good stuff for the rest of the video. It got hot. It was about 25 or 26 Celsius or 75 to 80 degrees in San Diego. So not a blistering hot day or anything. I think if the weather was a little warmer than that, we would have had a problem potentially with overheating. I was actually a little surprised that it didn't overheat already, given how hot the camera was to the touch. But one massive tip for Fujifilm cameras any of you should have this option regardless of what body you shoot on, but just keep the thing in boost. Normal mode should really be labeled to like battery saver mode. Boost just allows you to use your camera at its full potential. It also means that it will give you heat warnings at a higher temperature and use a little more battery life. But trust me, experience-wise, that's definitely what you want. That's just your camera operating at its, again, full potential. And that brings me to battery life. You know, it's hard to complain, again, when I'm pushing this camera as hard as I possibly can, and also telling you to put your Fujis in boost mode 24/7, but it does use the old, smaller batteries, and I think I went through 3.5 in a single day. And I'm just gonna say it one more time to emphasize, but it is really a pain to switch between photo and video mode. I'm not gonna harp on it anymore, but yeah, having to roll through your settings like that every 3 minutes when you're doing hybrid shooting out in the real world, not cool. Okay, the good, the absolute insanity that we've been touching on so far. Let's acknowledge that virtually every complaint about this camera, in video mode at least, is totally invalid when you factor in the form factor, again, the price, what it is. It's just incredible. It's a feat of technology, of engineering. It's mind-blowing. You know, if you drop this camera in the hands of a 1970s film photographer, or even if you talk to somebody 10, 15 years ago and told them what this thing is capable of, you know, they'd lose their mind. I mean, the fact that they can fit a 40 megapixel sensor, which is more resolution than I need or want, an IBIS system, a hybrid OVF, EVF, a super thin touchscreen that tilts out, internal ND filter, a whole bunch of really cool color science and film emulation, the autofocus system, which is finally somewhat reliable, digitally being able to zoom into 50 or 70 millimeter. I mean, this thing, I can go on and on and on. I'm not gonna read you the X100VI spec sheet. Yeah, I feel like we just don't look around and stop and appreciate where we're at with technology, how far things have come. But the video quality just overall is fantastic. And another huge thing that I will commend Fujifilm for, just the design of the button layout here. Now, I complain about not having a lot of custom buttons. However, the way that you can set up the X100VI in photo versus video mode, the way that I have it at least, in photo mode, I use the physical manual control dials, the ones on top of the camera. But in video mode, my settings stay where I left them, which is really cool. And I also use the command wheels, the front and the back command wheels, to control the aperture, the shutter speed, and the ISO. So that means I have two very different kind of ergonomic use cases in one camera, which is, again, absolutely mind-blowing. And on that front, it's actually almost a relief, because if your settings in photo mode carried over to video and you had to adjust them every single time you switched, it'd be a nightmare. So they thought of that and it's addressed. Sitting down here, talking to you now, I have to admit that this camera absolutely rules. I've been having a ton of fun with it. I am getting more and more excited about using it. I'm using it more and more. I'm leaving the XH2S home a lot now, which is, you know, different. I would describe myself, generally speaking, as a Fuji photographer who wishes my Fujis were a little more like Sony's, but who also really, really wants to stay here where I have lenses and batteries and this fun factor that a lot of brands don't have. You know, cheaper gear, lighter gear, smaller gear, it doesn't hurt either. So who knows, maybe this will be the camera that also convinces me to stay with Fujifilm long term as well. But that's enough of that. Thank you, as always, for watching. I hope you enjoyed the clips in this video. Let me know what your experience has been shooting video with the X100VI. If you have any thoughts in that department, as always, appreciate you watching very much. I will talk to you next Monday. But until then, have an excellent week and go take some photos.